Well, I've been thinking about this summer. I love this time of year when summer's you can see it right around the corner, but it's not quite here yet, but you know it's coming. I just love this time of year. I've been thinking about the state fair. I haven't been for a few years, and this year I'm going to go and do something I've always wanted to do, but never have, which is to visit the Pentecostal tent just inside the front gate of the state fair. When you walk in and you have that dual road with the booths, and about 3 booths down, there are the Pentecostals passing out brochures. And I've decided I'm going to slow down, actually, instead of avoiding them, and I'm going to step into their tent and look at their posters and look confused and say, just who is this Jesus you're talking about? Just to give them a little thrill. I feel so sorry for those people. No one talks with them. I sat one year just watching as people avoided them, went out of their way to avoid them. And they step out, brochure in hand, smiling, and people scowl at them and hurry by. No one who spends their vacation trying to save the rest of us from hell should be dismissed with such contempt, and yet here they are. I believe they're wrong about hell, but I know they believe it, and I admire their desire to help those they believe to be fallen. We all should care so much for people we don't know. Plus, honestly, I'd much rather have them at the state fair than in Congress. Pentecostalism, I was fascinated with it as a child and could spot them a mile away, the men in polyester black pants and white shirts, the women with their hair piled high. It was sort of a religious uniform, which I didn't find unusual since I had grown up in a religious culture where people dressed kind of funny. Priests in robes, nuns in habits. Mary, did you ever wear a habit? You did? Do you have any pictures of those you could show us? Can you bring one next week? I would love to see that. Nuns in habits. I had watched enough Westerns to see Native American medicine men bedecked in feathers and paint. And once I remember my father, when I was young, took me to Shapiro's Delicatessen, where I saw Jewish men wearing yarmulkes, something I had never seen in Danville. And so I knew that sometimes people in different religions dressed differently than others. This was confirmed when I became a Quaker and learned early friends wore distinctive garb, generally dull-colored, spare and featureless clothing, no lapels for the men, no ruffles for the women. We were called, in fact, a peculiar people because of our appearance, which after a while we began to take pride in. And what had been a freely chosen expression of simplicity became a required standard by which we were judged and consequently judged others. We friends, when considering our spiritual history, our spiritual ancestors, have much to be grateful for. I've made that clear over the years. But there are also moments, if we're honest, that give us pause, that cause us to wonder, what in the world early friends were thinking. So today I want to talk about, as Lynn said, the Quaker dress code and the inherent risk of judging the quality of one's spirituality by their attire. Just this week, I saw a video clip of a conservative pastor in North Carolina who's an older gentleman. He pastors a large megachurch there, and he was railing against the God Bless the USA Bible, which made me love this guy. I thought so well of him. But then after he had done that eloquently and powerfully, he launched into an attack on casual clothing, condemning those in his congregation who didn't wear suits and dresses to church, which made me think he was a little crazy, or as my cousin Matt always says, that the cheese had maybe slipped off his cracker a bit. I don't think the great divine spirit of the infinite, impenetrable cosmos spends much time thinking about fashion, but it's clear we humans do, given our tendency to equate faithfulness with attire, a still common practice in many religions. Hijabs and burqas for Muslim women, dresses, head coverings for Amish women, cassocks and robes for Christian clergy, turbans for Sikhs. I once spoke at an Episcopalian church. I wore a suit. I knew this was going to be high church, so I wore a suit. And when I arrived, was told by the priest that I needed to wear a robe. I said, that is against my religion. Sometimes our religion isn't so much about what we wear, but what we decline to wear. An Episcopalian woman came up to me afterwards. She said, you looked absolutely naked up there. I said, well, I hope that was a pleasant experience for you. Now think about this. Here we have a religious movement, the Society of Friends, that placed such an emphasis on outward appearance, since in every other way we prized the inward and spiritual aspects of life as opposed to the outward and physical. We taught, and we still teach, that true baptism is an inward experience, an inward purification accomplished by the embrace of spirit, not an outward cleansing accomplished by water. We taught, and still do, that Holy Communion wasn't the ritual consumption of bread and wine, but rather the inward communion with God in sacred silence. But then, when it came to clothing, we did an about face and said, nevertheless, we think it best to have a uniform. Women, no ruffles on your dresses, no bright color in your clothing, no makeup, no jewelry. Men, no lapels on your jackets, and purchase a black broad-rimmed hat. Buttons should be plain, shoes simple, preferably Birkenstocks, all clothing dark and plain. For the best part of 2 centuries, we punished or excluded friends who failed to meet our exacting standards. Because here is the truth, that once we start despising, once we start snubbing those who are just a little different, there'll be no end to it. There'll be no end to it. There'll always be one too many buttons, one too many fresh opinions, one too many original thoughts. First, we are told what to wear, Then we are told what to think. Have you noticed the plethora of red hats lately? In the past month, I've had the occasion to hook up with two people I grew up with but hadn't seen in decades. One of them, a man, was very popular when we were kids, very athletic, grew up to own his own business, made a lot of money, still has, to my great envy, a full head of hair, and is fit and well-dressed and handsome, looks like $1 million. He sent me an invitation to be his Facebook friend, so I accepted it and clicked on his page and came face to face with a litany of racist, ugly posts about immigrants and college protesters and trans people. It was nasty, nauseating stuff. I don't know how people can carry around that kind of poison inside of them. The other person I connected with was a woman I also knew growing up. We were together in first grade. I hadn't seen her since graduation. She's back in town cleaning out her parents' house, who had recently died. And when we were young, this woman was very homely. And consequently, no one really paid her much attention. She was one of these persons who just walked close to the wall in school and would just almost try to hide. And no one ever paid her any kind of kindness or attention, which I remembered when I saw her last week, and I felt terrible about that. So I told myself, I'm going to talk with this woman and learn all I can about her. So I asked her what she'd been doing for 45 years. And it was powerful. She had built this beautiful life for herself, for her family. And I was so deeply moved by her kindness and her intelligence and the life she'd put together for herself and her family. And I sat there listening to her, thinking to myself, how could I not have seen how lovely this woman is? How could I not have seen that? Look deeply. Friends, look deeply and look beyond. It isn't the clothing that reveals the person. It isn't the uniform. I have learned, as I know you have too, that more often than not, saints are found in rags, not robes.